21 years. Now, some people know me that I'm not happy with the school at all. Okay? I have a lot of issues with the school, some that can't be taken care of right here and right now. Okay? But me, as a tax-paying citizen, I want to know, first of all, why we're going from a part-time superintendent to a full-time. I'm not the only one. Now, the way Royal just read that, he tries to make things sound as they're de minimis, okay? By putting percentages in there. I don't want to know that. I want to know what the part-time salary was for, what it was, part-time salary, versus the full-time salary for the superintendent. Then I want to know what I'm getting for that. Feature benefit. That's the way they do it in the real world, okay? That's the way they do it in private business. Why am I paying for a full-time person here to do the job? Many people, I don't know if you follow the porch, what is it called? Chester front porch chatter. Many people have asked, why do we even need a superintendent? Okay? Why don't we have a shared superintendent with somewhere else? So now you have to show me the value. I personally right now don't see the value. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody understand what I'm saying? So it's not de minimis to me. A percentage means nothing. I want to know that.
Okay.
Feature value, yes.
First of all,
Go ahead.
are you finished your question?
No, because I have other things. Well, I would respond to what they have to say.
Let's chop it up.
Sure, go right ahead.
Instead of the 5 questions,
Right.
we did have a lot of discussions over the past number of weeks
Mm-hmm.
about shared superintendent or not, and how the length of time that would take in order to do that
Mm-hmm.
that evaluation and set that up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we did have quite a number of questions ourselves around full-time and part-time, what are the services, et cetera. So certainly Royal will have a number of areas around those specific points that we've gone through. But again, at the end of the day, we had, at the Budget Committee, had much the same area and asked for that position to be looked at for a part-time. But at the end, our responsibility is on the bottom line part of it. And I believe that we have encouraged, and Ephraim, I'll ask you to help me out there, that in doing the search, to do the search even for both, should the budget pass this way with a full-time. Royal, would you like to address the kind of guts of the question?
Okay, so the current salary for a .6 FTE superintendent is $100,786. The anticipated full-time salary would be $137,68. When you add in all of the benefits and other FICA and so forth, the current cost of the superintendent is $123,543. The anticipated cost be $190,577, which is a difference of $67,035.
190 what?
190,577.
Okay. That is an appreciable difference. So now, what I asked for,
$67,000.
what's the value that I'm getting going from a part-time to a full-time? And I also don't understand why we don't share this with another SAU.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to
Okay.
give you your best.
So, the history of this position is that the Chester School District was part of SAU 14 back in the early 2000s. In 2004, 2005, they entered into an SAU withdrawal committee. At that time, SAU 14 provided a full-time assistant superintendent assigned specifically to Chester. They spent several days in the Chester office and the other days in the central office in Epping. So it was a full-time assistant superintendent. When the SAU withdrawal committee looked at their plans to withdraw from SAU 14 to become an independent SAU, the plan that was presented to the State Board of Education, which was approved at that time, was for a full-time superintendent and 2 full-time people working in the office, so a staff of 3.
It doesn't give me feature benefit. What am I getting for the difference? Go ahead, you stopped, you paused. That was a pregnant pause. But go ahead. I thought you were looking for my reaction.
So, Let me just say that for those of you that get the monthly communication from the school board, I spent most of this afternoon documenting the background and the need for a full-time superintendent, so you'll be getting that later this week. It'll also be included in the annual report. So you'll have all the details there. But to summarize that, so we started out with a full-time superintendent back in 2006. I think it was in 2008 that the superintendent at that time was looking to retire, and we were under budget pressure that year, and he suggested that we drop back to a .8 position. The board looked at that time, and they concurred that the work that was required could be done at that time. So we went from a full-time position with approximately 2,000 hours a year down to about 1,630, I think it works out to, by going to .8. We ran that way until he retired. At that time, the board made the decision to hire a full-time superintendent as his replacement to go back to full-time. The search committee at that time identified a candidate, and we were not able to successfully negotiate a contract with that person. And so we continued the search, and the group, the New Hampshire School Board Association we were contracted with, was able to identify a candidate that was a retired superintendent from another school district. And because they were retired out of NHRS, they only wanted to work a .8 position. So we were kind of caught at that point. He was highly capable, he met all the needs, but he did not want to work full-time. We agreed that we would continue with a .8 position and have him work that. He was with us for several years working as a .8 superintendent. When he decided he was going to retire, we did another superintendent search again at a .8 level, and again got another retired superintendent that had been a former New Hampshire retirement system contributor. That gentleman was with us until 3 years ago, but during that time in 2019, New Hampshire retirement system changed the rules that someone that had worked in the New Hampshire retirement system wouldn't be eligible to collect their benefits if they worked more than .6. So he approached us and said, I want to be compliant with NHRS, I want to go to .6, plus I have some stuff going on in my life, and I'm getting ready to retire too. So we talked with him, and we worked out an agreement where we would have a sliding work schedule that did not exceed the NHRS requirement of working no more than 1,352 hours per year. So we continued on with Dr. Lockwood in that role, working .6, and then at the point where he retired, we put out for a replacement superintendent, again, a part-time position, .6, and that's when we hired Dr. Locke. And that was 3 years ago. Earlier this year, Dr. Locke notified us that she was planning on retiring and that we would need to find a new superintendent. We met with her, and her recommendation to us is that there weren't enough hours in 3 days a week to get the work done. That's a requirement for the superintendent these days. Personally, from my experience working hand-in-hand with her over the last 2 years, I could see the same problem, is that the superintendent needs to be available to their staff, needs to be available to the school board, and be on call 7/24. And basically having a part-time person in that position simply wasn't making it. In addition, the demands on the role are that this person has to be essentially the CEO of the school district. They need to be there to do financial planning. They need to be there to work with their staff. They need to set direction. They need to be the educational leader of the district. All those things. And there simply just isn't enough time 3 days a week in order to put focus on all those things. We're looking at issues that we want to do. We want to build on the foundation that Dr. Locke has put in place in terms of improving academics at the school. We feel that we need an educational leader that's devoted to working on that full-time and not as a part-time job. That's one of the main drivers for this. But again, there are so many things going on externally that drive the needs of the superintendent. For instance, if you follow the news at all, in Concord they have 1,350 bills that they're working on right now. 350 of those bills are related to education. The New Hampshire School Board Association, which is our representative in Concord in terms of following legislation and activities in Concord, they had to hire a second person just to keep up the number of bills that are being filed related to education each year. So they're having problems just getting that information. But the problem is that those bills, they affect either through statutory or regulatory changes how we operate as a school district. There are policy changes that have to be made that reflect the law. We work with the School Board Association to get those policy changes and get them implemented. The superintendent is responsible to ensure that all policies and procedures in place are in compliance with the state law. and federal ones as well. So the amount of time that we spend each year at the beginning of the year going through policies and figuring out what changed, what it means, and what we have to do, not just enacting a new policy, but you have to make sure that the staff understands the new policy and then putting it into place and carrying that forward. All of this work has to be done at the beginning of each year to make sure that we're in compliance, because most of the laws go into effect on July 1st,
Yeah.
before the school year even starts.
So what you need to do is show me that all that some of that has been done by our part-time superintendent. I can show you what wasn't done on that list you just gave me, okay? I would do that with you people privately. He knows exactly what I'm talking
No, I
about.
don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you should. Then you're not paying attention to the stuff that you respond to me, okay?
19 years of experience, but I haven't been paying
No,
attention.
that's a non sequitur. I just said you were not paying attention to me. You
Look,
haven't known me for 19 years.
Here's one thing I'm going to ask.
Sure.
We're not going to get into personalities.
What?
Look,
You got it.
You're going to let me finish.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
You're not going to be aggressive. We're going to have a conversation.
Sure.
And that's fine. But change the tone. I'd ask. I understand that everybody gets heated, but this is a public
not
forum.
heated.
Okay.
Oh, this isn't heated.
Do you want to ever let me finish a whole
No,
sentence?
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So that'll be the last time I ask.
Look, you finished your sentence. You just ended with a period there, okay? Now you're being.
If you do
you're
not
being
stop
aggressive to
pointing at me,
You're
we're
being
going to have a
aggressive to me.
problem.
We have a problem right now. You're being aggressive to me. It's called being passively
Robert,
aggressive.
let me
Now,
answer-
no, wait,
let
I'm
me answer
talking
one
to
of your
her.
other questions.
No, let me finish with her. So this is why I agree with paying for a school,
Dude.
a school psychologist. My name isn't dude, it's Bob or Robert Day, or Mr. Day, whatever you prefer.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, go
I'd
ahead.
appreciate if you don't point at me in an aggressive manner.
It's not.
It's how I interpret it.
Okay, well, that's your problem, not mine. See, let's have a conversation as you said.
That is not going to
You see
lead
what I
to a
just did with my hand?
conversation with that type of an attitude.
This is a conversation.
I don't know you from anybody.
Sounds like you're
I'm
trying to
asking
stop the
you.
conversation.
I'm
You don't like where
asking
it's
you
going.
to be polite
I
and with
have-
common courtesies, and that is not what I'm getting.
Okay, I'm not getting it from you. It's called being passive aggressive. If you like, when you get to
Can
school
we go back to
psychologist,
this? Oh, let's go back
sure,
to the topic.
go back
So
to the
you wanted to
topic.
know about why we couldn't share an essay.
Feature benefits is what I want. What am I getting more for my money? I said it clearly. It's a declarative statement. I asked, what am I getting more for my money going from a part-time to a full-time?
You were getting a full-time superintendent
Can I
who was
ask him?
focused on education and operation of the school district. That's what you're getting.
Okay,
You may not value that, but that's your right.
I value it.
That's what you're getting.
I value it.
And you don't have it now, and I think we suffer.
I agree we don't have it now, but I don't think we got it from this superintendent.
No,
I-
don't.
No, see, there we go.
No,
No, it's
you're not going
not-
to stand here and make fun
Certainly.
of our superintendent
No
or
one's making-
start criticizing her.
Hold on.
You can't criticize
Let me ask-
anybody.
Excuse
Let me
me.
ask a question, Royal. As of today,
Yes, sir.
how far along is the search process?
We have 11 applicants for the position. Maria is meeting with the people that are involved, that have volunteered to be on the search committee, and that will start after they're appointed at the meeting on the 7th.
So this search process commenced some time ago,
We posted the job in December. No, we
before
haven't had-
anything was ever presented to the budget committee in terms of this change, right? We didn't find out about it till January, essentially, when we first got the budget.
It was sooner than that. As soon as we, I'm just saying, I was very transparent. As soon as we were discussing going down that path, as soon as it was announced, we had a meeting following that, and we shared that information post the school board meeting where it was announced.
And what's the scope of that committee's efforts? Is it, because I heard Kathy say, it sounds like you folks had a conversation about looking at both options, full and part-time. So
We
what's the current-
requested.
What's the current scope?
So we're looking for a full-time superintendent.
Full-time only?
Yeah, that's our goal. I mean, it could be like it happened back in, what was it, 2010, 12, that we aren't able to find a full-time superintendent. And then we would have to go looking and see what the other options are. The problem is that the way that NHRS has structured the rules around the .6 requirement, you're finding less and less people that want to take on this role because it doesn't really work well. Otherwise, they have to give up their pension. And then, so
You
then you're getting
can't-
into their financial plans for their retirement.
And .8 is not fiscally responsible at this point, where you're already paying into the New Hampshire retirement at that point, to where the expensive part of this increased position is the salary and benefit, is the benefits and retirement system. And so as soon as you even consider going up to a .8, you have to pay that in. And so previously, when we were at a .8, it was a different time and different rules. We don't
Right.
have that option on the table without essentially already paying a good portion of the cost as soon as we would choose to go to a .8.
If you advertise for a part-time position, the candidates you're going to get are either going to be retired people who want to work 3 days a week, or you're going to get people that, I guess, want to work 3 days a week, but they obviously aren't looking to progress in their career. So a young person wants to work 3 days a week. I don't know.
Somebody wants to be retired on the job.
Yeah, so it's not really what you're looking for. We're looking for a leader and a person that's has business acumen for making those types of decisions and things like that. So,
As a taxpayer, you gotta understand, I'm looking at my child's education.
yes, sir.
I'm seeing a miserable failure. I see the education that comes out of that school. I've looked into the scores very closely, done a deep dive, Kathy. I've been talking to a lot of people in the New Hampshire Department of Education.
So Bob, you're veering off into...
Now, am I being able to, see, that's interrupting me.
You're veering off into criticizing the product of the school. What we're talking about is staffing the school.
I understand that.
Where-
You're asking me to
Please
pay more money.
restrict your questions to the specific topic at hand.
Yeah, it is. Watch, you're asking me to pay more money. This is my decision, how I do everything in life, how I was a very successful person in the private business. You have to show me feature and benefit, what I'm getting for that additional money. I feel, you might disagree, but the scores back me up, okay? My child is not getting a very good education here. That's a problem. If she's not getting a very good education, most of the other kids have it. I can do a deep dive, you want to talk about it, we can go look at every other school that spends the exact same amount as us and gets a better product. So I'm not simply concerned about what the job entails. I want value for my money. I want my daughter's education to improve. It's
And that's the goal.
not good. Yeah,
That's the goal.
Right, but the goal is, was the goal that way 10 years ago?
Sure.
Okay, now watch this. Over the last 2 years, the scores have gone down. What am I
They're
getting?
going down everywhere, Bob, not just...
Because everyone stayed home.
Wait, the scores went
There was-
It's not
Please.
relevant to the conversation. I don't agree with the full-time superintendent,
But watch.
but the scores being down for 2 years is in
Yes.
no way correlates.
Yes, it does.
that position.
It doesn't necessarily. All the scores...
So the scores, wait, who wants to, do you
Go
want
back to the original question.
Yeah.
I wanted to know why we couldn't share
Right,
this.
you just said the scores went down, but you said, you said it in October school committee, that the scores have gone up all around the state of New Hampshire. Then you have, except in this school. This is one of the rare situations where the scores have gone down. You, as somebody who's looking
If I
at
talk
the
to that, can we
finance,
move on?
you need,
It's my fault, Bob.
No, I didn't
my
say it's your
leadership
fault.
that caused the problem.
You wrote it.
Can we move on to something else?
Excuse
Hold on,
me.
Mr. Day.
Go ahead, Jack.
Absolutely think that you've got,
read it. The scores have gone up.
absolutely
Now,
believe that you have valid concerns, certainly for you, but they're not going to get resolved in a budget hearing tonight with this group. I think your better course of action, frankly, is mobilize a group of people that think like you, attend the school district meeting in March, and make motions on the floor to make changes. That would be my recommendation
That's
to you.
been my plan. I've been working with the
But
New
it's not
Hampshire
gonna,
Department-
you're not gonna, again, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just
Sure, go
saying
ahead.
you're not
It's
gonna-
right there in front of you.
You're not necessarily gonna
He
get
wrote
any
it.
kind of step change here at the moment.
This is just not the forum for
Yeah.
it. We're here to talk about figures. You've asked your question. It's been answered to the best of our ability.
Yeah, but you see, when you ask a question, you need to give the background for the question. And that's what I tried to do. I'm a taxpayer, I want value. Okay, that's the facts, that was directly.
I don't think that
from-
anybody's going to dispute that specific sentence. What I'm saying right here is
Sure.
the points that you're trying to weave into the conversation is not something that the budget committee can make material changes about along the way. So your question has been asked and answered. Next person. And please, there can be no sidebar
It
conversations.
says it in plain English.
Yeah, because there's one other point that we
Okay.
just responded. Regarding having a shared SAU versus having an independent SAU. As you mentioned, the SAU withdrawal process that we'd have to go through takes approximately 2 years to do that. So if you decided today, and we put it on the warrant in March to form an SAU withdrawal committee, the soonest you would be taking action on that is 2 years from today. So just so everybody's clear on that. That's by state statute, that's how that works, the process you have to go through with the Board of Education and so forth. So it's not just a, hey, let's do this tomorrow.
Correct.
That can't happen. We have looked over the years at joining with other groups, other towns, other school districts have approached us. We've never found a good match. The closest was probably Auburn, but we couldn't come to agreement on the size of the SAU staff. They wanted many more people working there than we felt was necessary, and so we agreed to go our separate ways. So we have looked at this multiple times over the years. 2017 being the most recent, where we had a serious look at actually org charts and the whole deal. But we have not seen an opportunity where we thought it was more cost-effective to join with another school district to form a joint SAU. Also, you have to be aware, and I think some people aren't maybe haven't really thought through, but what would end up happening is you would have a Chester School Board, Town X School Board, and a joint school board. And based on the number of students in those school districts, that's the weighting factor for the votes. So if you joined together with a larger school district, say they had 2,000 students versus our 750 students, you would end up being outweighed on all the votes. So if we wanted to do something like have one-on-one laptops for our students, we'd have to go to that common group and have that discussion and talk them into it. So this is the autonomy that you lose if you join in. There's values to it. There's drawbacks to it. You really need to look at it carefully. The target group that you're looking at has to be equitable for you in terms of their size and their interests. Auburn, like I said, was pretty close to us, the size of the community, co-located, they're right up the street. But again, we couldn't agree. They felt that they needed many more staff people in the SAU office to support SAU functions than we felt was necessary.
Dana?
Dana Theokis, 9 Muskrat Circle. And so I have